Hey, welcome in Monday Live. I'm Jason Priester, all ClemsonTigers.com, part of the Clemson Maven multimedia platform. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody, as usual, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We are 9 subscribers away from hitting that 1,000 mark. So if you're not subscribed, now's the time to do so. If we hit 1K during this live broadcast, number 1,000, we're going to give you some free swag. You can choose between a hat, t-shirt, hat like I'm wearing right here. We got them in white and gray. We got some t-shirts. Your choice. Going out to lucky number 1,000. So if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button. Fall camp's in full swing. We talked a little bit about it last Monday. From what I remember, for those of you who tuned in, no, I was not 100%. Let's put it that way, man. I was very much under the weather. Probably should have canceled, pushed through. Barely remember what we talked about. So I'm sure I lost my train of thought many times during that conversation. So apologies on that front. Back at full health this week, though, ready to go. Finally got to practice Thursday. Was in Clemson all weekend. Came back home after the scrimmage Saturday. Not a whole lot to glean from what we saw Thursday. I would describe it as a less than enthusiastic performance Thursday. Really, all we get to see that really tells you a whole lot is the tempo period, and it goes by really quick. So, I mean, it's not like you're sitting there watching them for 10, 15 minutes running the same drill over and over because, I mean, it goes by really fast. They do a drive with the first team and the second team and the third team, and then it was done. Klubnik took the first string reps quarterback, Paul Tyson second string, and Bazina took the third string. For those of you who don't know, Hunter Helms is out. He's in a walking boot. Heard he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. Sprained foot, sprained ankle, one of the two. Unfortunate. According to Dabo Sweeney, he wanted to see, Tyson and Helms kind of battling it out here in fall camp, but it is what it is. You know what you got in Helms. Maybe it helps Tyson some that he gets more of those reps. But again, I thought it was a less than enthusiastic effort Thursday morning. Keep in mind, it was the first morning practice of fall camp. It was just finished raining. Wasn't the best weather, although it wasn't hot. But Klubnik was kind of on the guys to kind of, start bringing in energy. Thomas Austin was chewing on some guys, about the same thing. So that's why I say it was a little less than enthusiastic, not the highest energy practice I've ever attended. But I wouldn't read a whole lot into that again. First morning practice, probably not all that unusual. Even after we left, we get shuttled out of there fairly quickly. We don't get to watch all of it. We get to watch the first 5 periods. It was supposed to be 6, but Dabo come on the mic and said, "No, I said 5, but I lied. No, y'all got to go now." They were fixing to start doing the physical drills they don't like us to watch. That's where Antonio Williams talked about a few guys getting kicked out. But after we leave, we go back to the media center over there, wait on practice in, and wait on some players to come over to talk to them. And walked outside for a few minutes, called a wife while we were waiting, and I could still, Dabo's got a mic, man. You could hear him over the mic. He was chewing on some people. So, not the highest of energy for that one. Listening to Dabo after the scrimmage Saturday, it sounds like he was pretty pleased. I know a couple of people that were at the scrimmage. They were pleased with what they saw. It sounded like they came out of that thing. I know he talked about a couple guys going down. All but one came back in. And from my understanding, that one was Vic Burley. He was the one that got hurt. Not sure how long he's going to be out. Did see DeMonte Capehart going by on a medical cart Friday morning during practice, but I've heard that was nothing serious. So wouldn't expect him to be out very long. But if Clemson's going to sustain some injuries, a defensive tackle is one of the spots they can afford to sustain some. Burley was already going with a cast on his right hand, coming about right there, some type of cast. I don't know if it's a hard cast or what, but um, he wasn't limited or anything. He was full go, but he did have that hand wrapped up in some type of cast. Bummer for him because by all accounts he's been doing very well. He's going to be a monster on the interior of that defensive line for years to come. We'll see how long he's out, though. It sounds like he's going to be out for a little bit. My take on fall camp. I'm trying to give you that right now. I did a lot of asking about Klubnik's performance in the scrimmage Saturday, and it's the couple of guys that I talked to that were in attendance were pleased with what they saw. He looks more comfortable. That he is not panicking and taking off so quick to take off like he was in the Orange Bowl last year, which I always thought that was inexperience. And the freshman in him, it wasn't all that unusual. Not all guys are ready to be the starter as a freshman, and that's just, I think, Klubnik falls into that category. But it sounds like all the reports on Klubnik have been excellent, man. But I'm telling you, he's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. Vizina's nowhere near ready, not based on anything I've seen or heard. He has definitely got a guy that's going to need a year in the system to kind of acclimate and get used to the speed of the game. And I'm not sold on Paul Tyson. You know what you got in Hunter Helms. I'm not sold at all on Paul Tyson. The little bit that I've seen, even back in the spring when he wasn't throwing, but he was taking the reps and going through the process just without throwing. Small sample size on Thursday. Thought he holds on to the ball a little bit too long at times. Seems to dip his shoulder some when he throws too. I tell you, a guy that stood out to me Thursday was, and he's probably not going to play a lot this year, but was Jay Haynes. Still needs some bulk, but man, he is smooth as silk. That guy is smooth, man. I have maintained all along he was vastly underrated, and I stand by that. He looked really sharp out there. The little bit I saw, I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. Is running 120 plus plays a lot for a first scrimmage? It's kind of, that scrimmage went on for it went longer than it was supposed to, a while longer than it was supposed to. So I'm not sure. I don't know that it's all that unusual. It just depends on what you're trying to get. I could, from the people I've talked to and listening to the players, the offense is going to go faster this year. They made it a point to be in shape to go fast this year. You can listen to some of those offensive linemen talk about getting in shape to run tempo this year. And I'm sure that, the number of plays they ran Saturday had a lot to do with that. I can't remember how many they ran for the first scrimmage last year off the top of my head. So I don't know if it's all that unusual. I would say they probably didn't run quite that many in the first one last year. But I also add again that this scrimmage Saturday, it ran way over. They were way late getting out. We stood out there for a long time waiting on them to finish. Then even after they finished, they had defensive linemen running for whatever reason. So somebody wasn't happy with something. We heard Dabo talk about how the defense kind of owned the day the first part, and then the offense kind of came back, took over the second part. I heard the offense. If I'm remembering what I was told right, I think the offense didn't score until they started doing some certain drills where they put the ball on the 40 or the 25. I can't remember exactly what he said, but sounds like the defense is going to be nasty. Sounds like the offense is getting there too, though. I have followed Clemson media for years. We always hear about some players who are showing out, not freshmen. Thoughts on not hearing about that guy? Um, I'm not really sure what you're asking me there. You're saying hearing so much about the freshmen worries you. Okay, I got you. You got to keep in mind though that when Dabo's talking about these guys, he's being asked about them specifically. So he's gonna talk about them when he's asked about them specifically. Like when he talked about the wide receivers after the scrimmage the other day, that was in response to a question about the freshman wide receivers specifically. So he's kind of responding to the questions that he's being asked. No, that does not worry me at all. I kind of liked what I heard about the wide receivers the other day. That it didn't look like anybody was going to have to start before they were ready. Something that they've had to deal with the past 2 years. He used Bo Collins as an example, who had to start the year before last, probably before he was ready. Um, kind of made it sound like Antonio even started a little bit before he was ready last year, even though he grew into that role quickly. Um, they are being able to develop those guys at the pace they want to develop them. Now, I don't think that means you won't see any of those freshman wideouts. I think we're going to see Tyler Brown this year, especially if Troy Stellato can't stay healthy. I think he's going to put himself in a position to contribute and have an impact on this offense this year. He's that kind of guy. But just because he's that kind of guy doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily mean anything bad about the other guys. I don't see him coming in and winning a starting job or anything like that. I just think he's going to contribute, be in the rotation. Um, it's I mean that doesn't concern me too much. For me, it's about the guys that kind of come out of nowhere that really, really, really get talked up in the spring or maybe the fall sometimes. Kind of come out of nowhere and really get talked up. And then you don't ever hear from them again. And a lot of times you can find you can pinpoint those guys when you're listening to Dabo talk sometimes. But I'm of the opinion that most of what everything Dabo Swinney says, he says for a reason. That whether it be as motivation or whatever, I don't think he says anything by accident very often when he's dealing with the media. Um, that's just my take on it. How were Bo Collins and XT? Dabo called XT a problem during the scrimmage. Um, I heard he looked really good. If you just looking at him, he looks really good. Bo Collins looks different too. If you look at his weight compared to what he weighed last year, I think there's only about a 4 pound difference, but he just looks different. There's something he looks different. Um, I've said it many times on here. I think Bo Collins can be as good as he wants to be. I think he's got greatness in him. He's just got to want it. Sometimes it takes guys a little while to get there. Maybe he's one of those guys. We'll see. So far, so good with Robert Gunn. Um, coming out of the spring, it was sounding a little antsy with Gunn. Maybe like he would not like be even, the top place kicker coming out of spring. Then they lost Liam Boyd to transfer, and Gunn's kind of who you're stuck with. Redshirt freshman, big leg, man. The leg's never been in question. Um, Powerful leg. He can kick the ball from he can kick them from 60 yards out easy. It's all about doing it consistently. Something he struggled with at times last year, something he struggled with in the spring. Sounds like he's found that consistency so far in fall camp, though. Um, Hit on every field goal I saw him kick during practice. So, how did I feel about Trevor Lawrence and ETN against the Cowboys this past week? I don't even know what they did, man. I don't do much NFL preseason at all. It's gotten to where it's just so meaningless and pointless. So I can't really speak on that. How much did Dinoff play? Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you how much he played. Again, we're not allowed in there for those scrimmages, so um, he's been working in with the twos and the threes, so he's been kind of rotating back and forth. Competition there with him and a couple of those freshmen, so we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, he did. He had a pick six in the game, dropped back into zone coverage. K didn't see him, and he picked the ball off and returned it for a touchdown. Not Dinoff's a guy they need to take that next step this year. Him and Zaire Patterson. They've been here long enough now. They were developmental guys when they got here. They've got a few years under their belt now. It's time to step up, produce. Um, so be interesting to see where those guys shake out on the depth chart. All right. I want to remind everybody again, we are 6 subscribers away from 1,000. If you are number 1,000, we're going to send you a little bit of swag, your choice, t-shirt, hat, whatever you prefer. 6 more. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Larry Williams is guessing Burley may be out for a few games early this season based on the official word being he'll be out for a while. Yeah, I didn't get a really good feeling off of what I heard about Burley. So we'll see. All right, we are now 5 away. 5 away. Number 1,000. Did the O line look good? Open up big holes from the run for the runners. We didn't. Dabo didn't talk much about the running game after the scrimmage. So I can't really answer that. And the guy I talked to about he didn't really say a whole lot about how much yards they rushed for, but he did talk up the offensive line some. Thought they looked better. I'm telling you, I expect the offensive line to be better this year. Um, you got some seasoned guys in there, not really having to rely on freshmen, and the way you have the past couple of years shouldn't have those growing pains that we've seen. We've heard Dabo in the past couple of years talk up the offensive line and it not really pan out. He talked them up again the other day. Said he's got 8 guys he feels like he can go out and win with, and you know, while I didn't buy it last year when he was talking it up, I'm buying it this year. So let me cut that dinging off there. Sorry about that. Um, I am buying it this year. I do. I think the offensive line is going to be much better than it has been. If if nothing else, based on experience, you've got a guy at center who's been there a while and he's learned the job now. You've got your right tackle who is got a year of experience under his belt. You got a veteran left right guard. You got a veteran left guard. Really, the only question is at left tackle. And I guess that didn't work, did it? Left tackle. And if Tristan Lee wins that job, he's a guy that's been in the system for a while. I mean, he's been here a couple years now. It's time for him to take over. Even if not, I think there are a couple other guys. You could always slide Tate out there. We'll see what they do, but I think that job leads to lose. I feel good about the offensive line. All that to say, I feel good about the offensive line. Injuries aside, defense should be stellar this year. Offense should be really good, all depending on Cade. If the receivers have another down year, we should get a new position coach. I think this is a big year for Grisham. Um, you, I'm going into the year keeping an open mind there because very few position coaches have to deal with the number of injuries he's had to deal with the past 2 years. I also not a big, hearing Dabo talk about some of the blocking on the perimeter in the scrimmage the other day was not encouraging. It's been a problem the past couple years, and it sounds like it was in the scrimmage, and I cannot figure out how to get that beeping to go away. um, but I do think this is a big year for Tyler Grisham. Now, whether he's on the hot seat, I have no idea. That's something between him and Dabo Sweeney. He's gotten killed for his inability to sign high level recruits in the past couple classes. He goes out and does that in this cycle. Half the fan base won't even give him credit. Thinks Jeff Scott, a guy who's not even on the staff, is responsible for that. A lot of people have their mind made up about Tyler Grisham, but we'll see. I can tell you this: I talked to a lot of recruits, and every wide receiver recruit I've ever talked to about Tyler Grisham talks him up. They really like him. Um, they love his coaching style. So we'll see. But Clemson's got to be better at receiver. It's not all been about the injuries. Don't get me wrong. Again, they got to be better with their blocking on the perimeter. That's something Clemson receivers used to take pride in years ago. Haven't seen a lot of that the past few years. We'll see if that mindset returns because that in this offense is critical that the receivers get out on the perimeter and block. It is critical. All right, three more. Three more away from number 1,000. I was surprised that Dabo actually said some good things about Stellato after the scrimmage. Litter said he's a playmaker. Didn't just talk about his availability problem. Yeah, if you listen to Dabo talk about Stellato the last time he mentioned him, it sounded like he was kind of frustrated with him. This time it didn't. And Dabo talked about Stellato after being asked about the freshman receivers. Nobody asked him about Stellato or anything, so he kind of just added that in there and made sure he wanted to get it in there. Makes me think he didn't mean for it to come off as he was aggravated with Stellato the last time. It kind of sounded that way, but I'm wondering if maybe he didn't mean for it to come off that way, and he was kind of clarifying that because it absolutely sounds like he's not frustrated with him in any way, shape, or form. Just wants him to be available. The best ability is availability, like he always says. But he also said the kids had some terrible luck. Maybe they get him back this week. That's what he said. We'll see. Some dudes just get a hamstring problem, can never get over. Man, this is not Stellato's first go around with a hamstring, unfortunately. Um, you just got to approach it as you're not going to get anything from him, and then if you get anything from him, it's icing on the cake. Sounds like Avion Terrell is a stud. He has gotten talked up a lot since during fall camp. He has turned some heads. But you've heard more than one player talk about him. Andrew Makuba talked about him today, really talked him up, compared him to his brother. If he's anything like AJ Terrell, he's going to be a baller. Clemson's got some dudes at corner, man. They've got some dudes. Just got to keep them healthy. They couldn't keep them healthy last year. And that might end up benefiting them this year because those guys got thrown into the fire, like Toriano Pride. Jaden Lucas, not so much, a little bit, but not as much as Pride. Sherrod Koval played a little bit, but he's a safety. But they got some dudes at corner. They can keep Nate Wiggins, Sheridan Jones healthy, and then you got Pride and Lucas, and then those freshmen. And Khalil Barnes he's being talked up a lot too. So he's picked right up where he's left off in the spring. I am concerned with O-line, pass protection, wide receiver, no home run, and defensive play calling. Change my mind. I touched on the offensive line a minute ago. I think they're going to be better this year if by no other reason, just more experience. They just those guys. They've been around a while. Most of them have. You're not going to have to rely on any true freshmen this year to start, what you had the past couple of years. They now know what to expect from Thomas Austin after playing for him for a year now. And based off some of the things I've heard, the offensive line, I think, is going to be better. Question is, how much better? I can't sit here and tell you they're going to be one of the top groups in the country because I have no idea. I just feel confident saying they're going to be improved. I've said that the past 2 years, though, and have turned out to be wrong, so take that with a grain of salt. As far as no home runs at wide receiver, Adam Randall, is faster than he's given credit for. He's just not seen it yet. You've not seen him healthy. That's the kid I watched grow up on the field out here. He played at Myrtle Beach, not far from where I live. I saw him play a lot in high school. That dude is a baller, man. He is a monster. If he's healthy, he's a home run threat. Tyler Brown's a home run threat. He's one of the fastest dudes in that room. Troy Stellato, if he's healthy, he's a home run threat, which I think speed's a little overrated sometimes when we're talking about wide receivers, even though I think Clemson's lacked speed on the perimeter. When it comes to creating separation, there's more that goes into it than just straight line speed. It's all about how you run your routes, get in and out of your breaks, use your hands, all that good stuff. I like the makeup of Clemson's wide receiver room. The key is going to be keeping Bo Collins, Adam Randall, and Antonio Williams healthy. It's imperative you keep those guys healthy. You don't want to have to be starting guys that aren't ready to start. Like that was when you talked about it the other day. They've had the last 2 years, they've had to turn the guys and start them before they were ready. That's what you don't want to have to get into this year. You got to keep those top three guys healthy. If you don't, I think you're in trouble. But I like some of the guys behind those guys, too. I love the freshmen they just brought in, all of them. I think Noah Johnson's going to be a player. I think he was vastly underrated. I think Roland Hannafin's going to be good. I think he's probably going to need a year. And again, I think Tyler Brown can help this team this year. We'll see if Tink Kelly can. He's got a lot of speed, too. But you want those guys to be role players. You don't want to have to depend on them to be every down guys as freshmen. There's a lot more variety in that room right now. The key is just to keeping those guys healthy. Defensive play calling, I like Wes Goodwin. I think he had big shoes to fill, coming in behind Brent Venables. That was a tall task, especially with the number of injuries they dealt with on that defense last year. Kind of the same thing with Thomas Austin, though. Now that he's been in that role a year, he's kind of had an entire offseason to kind of self-scout, see where he needs to make some improvements and where he can get better. I think you see an improved Wes Goodwin this year, too. Sounds like the players believe that, too, listening to some of them talk. We'll see, though. Can number 1,000 get your media pass? All I got's a T-shirt or a hat, man. We are two away. Need 2 more subscribers. If we hit 1,000 during this show, we will send number 1,000 some free swag. Any recruiting news? I had a nice long conversation with 2024 offensive lineman favorite Edwin last night. I got to still transcribe that thing and write it up. But uh, first conversation I've had with him, I like him, man. I mean, that is a kid that sounds wise beyond his years. Moved here from Nigeria a couple years ago. Worked out at Dabo's camp, you know, earlier this summer. Was there for all three sessions in that final 3 days they had there. I think he's a kid that ultimately ends up with an offer. Sounds like they want to get a little bit of film on him before they officially offer. A lot of communication back and forth between those two guys. I mean, between Clemson and Edwin right now. Even he says he thinks they want to see him on film some because he's not played football yet. He goes to the same high school Zachariah Owens did. This will be his first year. So we'll see how he goes once he gets into the season. But man, I'm telling you, I really, really, really like this kid, man. I really like him. Um, I'll be surprised if he doesn't have an offer. Worked out at Alabama's camp too. Ended up getting an offer from Bama. Clemson just hasn't pulled the trigger yet. All right, we have hit 1,000 subscribers. Still time to get in. If you hadn't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Um, might have something for you too. Dabo's demeanor scares me after scrimmage is very different from past years. Someone always dominant, not hearing it from anyone. To me, when you're listening to Dabo, to me, it's kind of more about how he says something than what he says. Um, I understand what you're saying, that you're not hearing about somebody being dominant. Um, the closest thing we've heard to that was how XT was a problem the other day. But they've only had one scrimmage. They've only been one scrimmage so far. I mean, it's not like they've had a bunch of scrimmages. We're used to hearing that the defense has been dominating the offense the past couple of years. That's the way it's worked out. We get into the season and we see why the defense was so dominant over that offense. I think it's a good thing that the defense has not been dominating the offense up to this point. I think it is a telltale sign that the offense has made a lot of strides. I think you want it to be a competitive. That's just me. Um, Not everybody sees it that way. So, but again, to me, when I listen to Dabo Swinney speak, man, I try to listen to how he says things, the words he uses to describe players, not so much what he says, how he says things. I think maybe they're trying to keep people healthy, evaluate younger guys. Look to hopefully hear more going deeper into the fall. Yeah, hey, there's definitely been some guys being held to get some younger guys reps. Like um, when we were at practice the other day, Jeremiah Trotter didn't participate in the tempo period. It's come out since that he's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring, but I think that was by design because you want to get Woodaz some reps inside. You got to have somebody else ready in case Trotter goes down. Now that Dudley's out, you don't want to have to rely on Kobe McLeod before he's ready. So I mean, yeah, I'm just using that as an example. They've done that with some guys at offensive line, kind of. I've seen Pennington working with the second team some the other day. He's been working with the third team at other times. They put mixing and matching them. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. Jeff Scott has office. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Jeff Scott's not on the coaching staff. That's all I can tell you that. Uh back back to the subscribers. Still time. You know what? My boss man says that there's still time to get in the drawing. He's feeling generous. Going to give away a black Nike hat, a white Nike hat, and a t-shirt. 3 different winners. If you subscribe during this show, you are eligible. And I will announce the winners before we go off the air. Still time to get in. We don't want to stop at 1,000. Yeah, Makuba talked up Rob Billings today too, another freshman. There's a lot of talent on the back end of that defense, man. A lot of talent on the back end of that defense. A lot of depth. Um, all those guys they're not all experienced, but there's a lot of talent. Again, you with Lucas and Pride being a year older, wiser, whatever you want to call it, man, you can afford an injury or two easier than you could last year. You don't want to see any of those guys go down. You'd like to keep all that depth. But yeah, I think Mike Reed and Mickey Kahn's got a lot to work with on the back end of that thing. Haven't seen it yet with Adam Randall. Well, that's because he tore an ACL and missed his first year. I get it. You got to see it to believe it. I've seen it though, so I've seen that guy line up. I've seen it. The last time I saw him play in high school, he played quarterback, safety, running back, wide receiver, all in the same game. The dude is a monster, man. 225 pounds and nothing but muscle. He's physical, and I'm telling you, he is faster than he is given credit for. But again, it starts with staying healthy. You got to keep all 3 of those guys healthy. All 3 of them. Y'all should interview Stellato. Well, we don't get to pick who we get. That's decided by the school. I'd love to talk to Stellato too. He's not spoken with the media really since he committed, if I'm not mistaken. I remember he did an interview with SI when he committed. I'm not sure he's done one since. He's definitely not done one since he got to Clemson. I wouldn't mind talking to him. Yeah, left tackle's going to be Lee or Sadler. But don't discount. Hey, Tate can move out there too. Tate's been playing out there too. I'm telling you, he's been rotated out there at left tackle some too with the first team. I'm just saying it's an option. I think Lee's going to be the guy, but we'll see. How is punting and kicking going? It sounds like the kicking's going fine, or actually good. Sounds like the kicking's going really good. I'm not sure about the punting. Um, I have not seen any punting personally this camp. Again, y'all know that I've been sick, missed the first couple practices, so I hadn't seen all 3 of them that we were allowed into. So I personally haven't seen any punting, but it sounds like that job's there to be won. If Jack Smith can win it, not sure he can yet. I'm not sure he's ready to yet. Um, we'll see how it plays out there. But it sounds like Gunn's been doing really well, really, really well. Need a wide receiver that can burn and stretch and another that can shift. We haven't had that the past few years. Again, you got to keep those guys healthy, man. I mean, I don't think it's correct to say Clemson's not had it. They just not been healthy. I think Antonio Williams is not a burner, but he can shift. He's that kind of dude. I think he's going to take a big jump. Adam Randall can stretch the field. Bo Collins can stretch the field. I think it is just not correct to say they can't. You just got to keep those guys healthy. Tyler Brown can stretch the field. Jake Brenningstool can stretch the field, even though he's a tight end. He's going to be split out wide a lot. They got weapons that can stretch the field. You just got to keep them healthy. Are we taking experiments again? If you're talking about the offensive lineman, that I guess you could call it what you want. The fact that Alabama offered him ought to tell you all you need to know. I don't know. The dude's never played football before. He's got 4 offers. He came and killed it at camp. Um, if you're gonna take a developmental guy to along the offensive line, this is the class to do it. There are no surefire guys along the offensive line. I don't care if he's a 5-star or a 2-star. There is no surefire guy along the offensive line. Clemson is 1 for 6 on guys that visited during the official visit weekend. They really got one outstanding offer out right now to Elijah Thurman. It's kind of regroup and reset and go from there. You can't pick and choose, and you're not pocketing that thing and wait until next year. And you can't go to the portal because you're not going to go find a. If you go to the portal, you're going to have to. You're going to be looking at guys that want to come in and start. Clemson's set to lose one guy off the offensive line after this season. You're not going to find a guy that wants to come in and be a backup. Um, if you're going to take a developmental guy, this is the class to do it. I think Clemson has recruited exceptionally well along the offensive line the past, going back to 2021, 2022, you pick. I think it's fair to say that it's time to start seeing that recruiting success translate onto the field of play. But there is more talent along that offensive line in that room than they've ever had under Dabo Swinney, ever. If you're just talking about star power, star ratings, or whatever you want to call it. But again, I mean, if you want to call him an experiment, I guess that's fine. To each his own. Dabo said it's like Twilight Zone. Chad and Jeff having. I don't remember Dabo saying anything about Jeff Scott having an office. Maybe I missed that. I don't know. He's not on the coaching staff. He's not an analyst. He's not on the staff. Chad Morris is on the staff as an analyst. A move that I think has been made out to be much more than it's gonna be. It's gonna be there a few days a week, helping with offensive and defensive tendencies of opponents. Probably won't even be there for any games, maybe 1 or 2. Um, but I don't know. Jeff Scott's not on the coaching staff. Lawrence said a good defense made him better playing them every day in 2018. conventional wisdom says playing against that defense every day should make that offense better. No, we said the same thing last year and the year before last too, and it didn't quite work out that way. But, and I think a lot of that can be chalked up to poor quarterback play and just one injury after the other. But yeah, I mean, iron sharpens iron. You hear that all the time. What you giving away when we get to 2,000 subscribers? Hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. What was Cade's biggest strength in high school, and does Cade's system enhance it? I'll tell you when for me, Klubnik's biggest strength watching his high school film was that he rarely did anything to get his team beat. He didn't make poor decisions. He was smart with the football, put it where it needed to go. And he was always, he kind of played right on that line without ever crossing over it. Does Garrett Riley's system enhance that? I don't know. I do think it suits him well. I think this is an offense that should bring out the best of his abilities. Kids is, he doesn't have the strongest of arms. He doesn't have what I would call elite arm strength. I think that gets a little overplayed, same way speed does with wide receivers sometimes. I think he's got all the other intangibles. The kid didn't do anything but win in high school, and he played in arguably the toughest high school division in the country, not in the state of Texas, in the country. Then he didn't do anything but win, and more often than not, smoke teams he was playing. Accuracy's on point, and he just made good decisions with the football. Just don't think he was. Some guys aren't ready as freshmen, and I don't think he was. Now that he's been here a year, he knows what's expected of him, what to expect. Even in this new offense, he's been around. He's been in it long enough now to know what's expected and what to expect. They've been installing that thing since, for the spring, at least mentally. I think you see him take a big jump this year. Kid's just a winner. If I had to use one word to describe him, that's the word I would use: winner. He didn't do nothing but win in high school. You think Noble or Hannafin will get some big minutes due to speed? I think Noble Johnson's probably ahead of Ronan. You remember, Noble Johnson was the only wide receiver that enrolled early, so he's been here since the spring. Hannafin, listening to Dabo talk the other day, he might be the one. The others might be ahead of him at this point. It sounds like he's still got a little ways to go. If you're talking about guys getting the receivers getting opportunities that are speedy, to me, that's Tyler Brown. I'm not sure I would call Noble Johnson a burner in the same sense I would with Tyler Brown. That dude can fly. I mean, he's got elite level speed. Kind of like similar to Stellato. Stellato was legit clock multiple times, 4.4 into 40 at the opening during his high school career. Now that was pre-injury. It's fair to wonder if any of these injuries have affected that speed, but he had legit speed at one point. So he's another guy. I see Clemson with 10 wins after the bowl. Am I alone? So that would be 10-2 or 10-3? Is that include an ACC championship game or? I think this Clemson team has the potential to get back to playoff this year. The path's there. I ain't buying all this Florida State hype. Not saying I don't think they're any good. I do think they're good. I'm not buying that they're a top 5 team right now. They ain't even favored in their season opener against LSU. They're underdogs. And we got people like Brett McMurphy voting them number 4 in the country in the preseason poll. Blows my mind. Top 10 team, yeah, maybe. I think them and Clemson probably should be right around the same spot in the top 10. I think this is a Clemson team that can run the table. To be quite honest, if they get a couple breaks and they can keep some guys healthy. To me, that's the biggest thing. Keeping you gotta get better luck with injury, man. During those playoff years, Clemson was so fortunate on the injury front, and it has caught up to them tenfold in the past 2 years. If they can get over that, keep some of these guys healthy, it'll go a long ways toward getting them back. Now, do I think they are a national title caliber team? No. Um, I think you got certain tiers, and I think Georgia right now is in a tier all by themselves. And then right under them, you got teams like Ohio State, Alabama. Um, I don't know, maybe one or two more. And then you got another tier right up under them. And I think Clemson's in that third tier right now. I think this is a big year for Clemson football. Program kind of sitting at a crossroads, coming off consecutive 3-loss seasons. You know, you've seen your offense just take a nosedive. You went out and did something to address that. And then you got Florida State kind of resurgent. Big year for Clemson football, man. I do think this team has the potential to get back to the playoff in 2023, though. If they're sitting there at 10-3, again, I think it is a disappointing season. Who is next up after Woodaz at linebacker, and will they move a safety to linebacker for depth? Kobe McLeod's up next after Woodaz. But Clemson's going to play a bunch of 4-2-5. You're going to see Clemson in a lot of nickel looks. Yeah, that was already going to be the case. So, I mean, to me, I don't think the Dudley loss is as big a deal as it's been made out to be. You know, God forbid something happened to Trotter, you could always move Woodaz to Mike and let him play there, and still you're still playing with 5 defensive backs. I don't know about a safety getting moved to linebacker, but I would fully expect a ton of nickel looks. Very good point. John says Hannafin is late. It points out he's a summer enrollee. Also didn't play against the same kind of competition as some of these other guys, and that is a very valid point. Come from up north, where it's just not as competitive as it is in other parts of the country. Like Noah Johnson played in Texas, Tyler Brown here in South Carolina. Same with Team Kelly. It's just not the same kind of football, it's not the same kind of competition. Did I think we were a natty team in Trevor Lawrence's freshman year? Yes. I thought that was a national championship caliber team. Absolutely. All right. Man, this has been a fun one. I figured I didn't really get to talk about last week, all that expansion talk earlier this week, man. I figured I'd be all in on that. Suits me just fine that nobody brought it up because it was never going to happen. Not those three teams. All right, we got our three winners, man. John Sarian, Clemson Dude, Brody Chase. You can either DM us on Twitter, all underscore Clemson, at all underscore Clemson, or send us an email at admin at clemsonmaven.io. One or the two. John Sarian, the Clemson Dude, and Brody Chase. And we would like to very much thank everybody for hitting that subscribe button, getting us to that number 1,000. We've been working hard at getting there. Couldn't done it without you guys. Now let's get to 2,000. Unfortunately, we can only subscribe once, but we very much appreciate it. As always, appreciate y'all tuning in. Don't forget, check us out, allclemsontigers.com. Zach's been out there every day after practice, after the scrimmages. He'll be back out there tomorrow. Our All Clemson Tigers radio show will be back Thursday. We were talking about bringing it back yesterday, but the fall camp schedule is still kind of conflicted with that, so we're gonna hold off till Thursday, 2:00. Don't miss out on that. If you're around right here, we go live most days at 2:00, and we'll start that back up on Thursday. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will see y'all again right here next week for another edition Monday Live.